Hello, my name is Jan van Holleben and I'm the editor of this book, ABC Photography. But before I tell you all about this book, I'll tell you a little bit about my person, so let me introduce myself. I'm 43 years old and I'm based in Berlin. I have a photographic studio and for the last 20 years I've been working in this profession. I work a lot with children. But why? Because you always say photographers shouldn't work with children or animals because they're so exhausting and difficult to work with. No, I didn't think that. But let's start at the beginning. I was 13 years old when my mom gave me this wonderful little camera. Very simple. It's a film camera, it's a bit old-fashioned. You can still load film in here. And you can have a wide angle and a tele and click it. Very simple. I took hundreds of pictures with this. I have to say, my dad was a cameraman in a TV station and he photographed a lot. So we've been documented quite a bit in our childhood. And it was always fun. He had all these ideas, we would play around with photography. And I thought, yeah, maybe I should become a photographer. But what I saw around was so many successful careers. I thought, that might be a bit exhausting. Really, do I want to be a photographer that sort of is doing all that hard business, is competing with all the others, is working with magazines and is running around the world and doing all the things? And I thought, maybe not. I'm just gonna have my fun with it. I have to say as well, my mom was a speech therapist, so I thought maybe I become also some sort of teacher, maybe teach for handicapped children. Was really interesting, so I thought maybe study that. Wasn't really my thing. I started, it was good, but not the best. It wasn't my thing. So I started trying to find a course in photography that would be interesting to me. And I went to England, to the Surrey Institute of Art and Design, and they had a course in theory and history of photography. And theory and history of photography means that you think about photography a lot. You learn what can photography do, what can it not do. Where should you apply photography and where does it not make any sense at all? So I learned a lot about photographers. I studied their work. I was very curious about all the photographers around in London. I was also very curious about all the photographers that I just really liked and tried to understand what I liked about their work, what was interesting. And I think that's where I've been confronted with so many images and so many great ideas and so much thinking about photography that all those theories, everything that I learned over those years was really the key for me to also start photography. I picked up the camera again after all that thinking, after all the degrees that I managed to get, and just really wanted to take pictures, wanted to play with children, wanted to explain them how photography works, wanted to experience how work in photography functions with the children. What is it that is so amazing about photography? So now, thinking about this book, ABC Photography, I had this long wish, this long dream of working with other photographers' work. And I realized that I had this huge collection of images that I really, really liked. I had this huge list of photographers that I really, really liked. And maybe I just would have to organize them a little bit. So I got myself some time and space in my studio. I had a big wall. I printed out all my favorite images that I could find. I stuck them on the wall. I organized them in certain ways. And there's a lot of themes that are common in photography. And obviously all those themes that I learned in university about what does time mean in photography? What is space? What is the self? What's a portrait? What is a successful commercial photograph? What does it mean to actually take pictures of other people? How do you deal with light? How do you deal with the aperture? Or what do you want to talk about in photography? What is your motivation to take photographs? What do you reveal from yourself in photography? And I started categorizing all these images, and I hadn't really talked to any of those photographers yet, but I thought like, I'll do that later, because photographers are usually very nice people, and I thought I'll sort that out later. So I was just really playing with all these photographs and charting them up on the walls, and realized more and more that I could really distill those many images into an alphabet, into the alphabet of photography, and to an alphabet that is about time, it's about light, it's about self, it's about greatest places that I want to be, it's about all these different things that photography can do with you. So it was really one step at a time that brought me closer and closer to this book. We didn't even think about text yet. It was all about what could be the big words, what could be the different sections, what kind of photography goes with which term, what images should actually go into the book. And I can tell you one thing, most of all, I just led myself by my own interest, by what I liked most about photographs. I mean, I'm quite a childish is maybe the wrong. I'm a very playful person, and I really enjoyed most the photographs that are very playful, that have a lot of depth to it, where everyone can take something out of it. And so I went through all these pictures that I had on the wall in front of me, go like, which are my favorite images? Which ones are really resonating within me, that I want to play, that I want to talk to other kids about this, talk to other parents and people about this, and maybe even make a collection out of it, make a book. And ended up with maybe, I guess, 40, 50 images that were really, really important to me. And then started all over again, organizing the whole book, and probably spent a few weeks just going back and forth and trying out different things and thinking, could this be a picture that where the most important part is about timing, or is this perspective? Maybe it's about zooming, maybe it is about something that's much bigger than that, maybe it's more philosophical. So I think this is where it was a lot of playing with the photographs and trying them out in different areas. And then Monty, a friend of mine, came along, and he really, really loved the book. So, well, the book idea. And he wanted to write the text. And I go like, great. I mean, he's such an amazing writer. He rhymes beautifully, and he plays with language as well. So, at least as much as I play with photography. And I thought, come on, let's do this together. So again, we spent another week or so together on the pictures, playing with different ideas, playing with text, putting it together. It was always a big chaos, a big chaos. And the chaos was fun to play with. Mind you, I hadn't really spoken to any of the photographers yet, so I hadn't really asked if I could use their work. But as I said, photographers are really nice people. And once we had a rough selection of the images, once we had sort of our ideas, what we wanted to communicate, because when you talk to a photographer, you also need to know what you want to talk to them, or what you want to talk with them about. So I had this rough idea of the book. It wasn't set in stone at all, and I just emailed and called up people, the photographers, and asked what they thought. And I was a bit nervous, because obviously I had already played with their work, but that's normal in photography. You sort of play around with images, and once you actually really have found the ones that you want to use and want to work with, that's when you call the photographer and see what they think about it. And if you're very serious about what you do, then usually it's not a big deal. So I talked to the first people. I remember contacting Martin Parr and Alex Soff in the very beginning, because I thought, if those two go along, and if I get their approval on their ideas, on my ideas, and how we could work this together, and maybe they even have also some ideas, then this will work. Then maybe others will like this too, and we go one step at a time. So I checked with Martin Parr, and he's a very sweet person, and he's like, wow, what a great idea. A photography book for kids, for them to understand how photography works. What could be more amazing for a photographer than having children to understand the work? And I thought, yes, because it's time. All the children are running around. They're all photographing the world. They're all having fun. But do they actually know the potential of photography? Has there been anyone educating them about how photography works? I mean, beyond what you learn with just playing with it, because you learn a lot. But there's also these ideas that photographers like me, photographers like Martin Parr and Alex Soff and Nan Golden and Tim Walker, and you name them, they've all have worked within photography for so many years. They do have a few smart things to say and to show. So I thought, let's get them all on board and let's see what they think. And from all these little chats with those photographers, I made my notes and we've tried to incorporate them as well within the book. Alex Soff and I, we had this idea of having an image that you can really observe very closely and go around and around in the image and just really detect all these little details. And we came up with this really fun picture that he then gave to me, which is this one. And it was just so great to see him getting involved with the whole concept of the book and to find out that this picture is actually the best to take for this book, because you can really see the speckles on his trousers. So you wonder, what did he actually do? Who is this guy? I mean, he has planes in his arms and his hands, and he's standing in a sort of a cold environment outside. He has a hat on, he has glasses. He has something in his pocket. So you don't really know what is this? What could be in the pocket? So we thought that would fit so well to the letter F for find, because things that you can find within an image, it's incredibly never-ending story that you can look at some images and you can just lose yourself in them. Particularly in this one of Alex Soff, there's so much detail, so many things that you can think about. What time of year is this? Where in the world is this? Who is this guy? And what is he talking about in his image? I mean, why did Alec take this picture? Why did he make him stand that way? That's why I thought that was really great to talk with Alec about this. I mean, there's so many pictures in this book. I didn't talk to all of the photographers in person. Sometimes it was just a quick email. I remember Nan Golden, I tried to get this really fun picture of hers in which is of a little pool, a paddling pool, like like a little water pool in the garden. And I thought it was so beautiful. And I tried to get in contact with her. It was very difficult. Her assistants wouldn't respond. I mean, they didn't know me, and they didn't really care. They probably were quite busy with things. But very briefly, just before we finished collecting all the images for the book, I got an email from her, and she's like, wow, why did I miss this email? I love the idea, and surely you can use that picture. Don't worry, if you want any other pictures, let me know. But this one, yes, I get it sent to you immediately. And I go, yippee! So some photographers were very late. I mean, we're all very busy. That happens. And sometimes you don't see all the emails that are sent to you, or your assistants don't tell you. So that happened. Then I had really sweet conversations with this photographer. Let me see. I want to show you a really wonderful picture that I really, really like. It's of the sheep. It's Walter Scheels. He's a German photographer. He's probably the oldest photographer in the book. And he's done this amazing series of photographs of animals. And I thought, I don't want to put a picture of a person as a portrait into the portrait section, which is self, S for self. So this picture of the sheep is, I think, so stunning and so humane that it really had to go into the section. And Walter was a little bit like, this is not a portrait. I mean, this sheep didn't even know that what photography is, and didn't really know how to respond to the whole sitting with the photographer. And then on the other hand, I said, yeah, but I think that sheep really looks like it understood. I mean, look at that face. it really looks properly like it would know just everything that's happening. All the things that happen when you take a picture of yourself. So I convinced him that this is the right picture. Because I have to say, honestly, Walter is a portrait photographer. He's taken so many amazing portraits of important people in the world, mainly politicians. And then he was obviously a little surprised to see me putting his sheep into the portrait section. So we had lots and lots of different reactions. Another picture that is really important to me is the one about perspective. It's also on the cover of the book. It's by Benne Ochs, a German photographer again, and he's a photographer that takes many, many pictures, all sorts. He's a jack of all trades. He's so good in what he does. And yet that picture was quite a personal picture to him, because it just really took it on the side of his life. He just saw it. And I thought it was so special that this picture really had to go into the perspective section. It is so important, perspective within photography. It does it all, and the perspective is always different. It's about your perspective, it's about what you as a photographer decide your perspective is. But in this picture, it's also the subject matter that is about the perspective, and about the cat that is so huge and the mouse that's so small. We all know what's going to happen. Or maybe not. Maybe they become friends. Maybe they don't have a fight. Maybe the cat is actually not anxious. Maybe the cat is just curious. Maybe they're both just thinking about, who is this? Who's so small on the other side? They're opposite me. Or the mouse who goes like, who is this big cat there in front of me? So perspective is such an important aspect that I thought, let's make something really fun with this. Make it understood to the kids reading this book that perspective is immanent in photography. It's everywhere. And it's mostly, in the end, it's just your perspective of the one taking the picture. So let me see if there's something else. Oh yeah, Peter Lindbergh. I was a fan of Peter's work ever since, I guess I was maybe 13, 14, seeing the first fashion magazines in the world. And I actually have to say, I always wanted to be a photographer like him. I had a few great photographers that I really admired. He was one of the greatest, because he had so much fun. He just had an idea and he just photographed it. And it was just so easy for him just to go out and play with things, have great models, have great teams that worked with him. And I talked to his son in particular, because Peter was very busy at the time. So his son helped me go through the archive of his and find pictures that we could use for the book. And I mean, I knew that Peter was very happy because his son had told me about it. But then picking this picture was a bit like, yeah, but where are we gonna put this? Because we really love it, and it's so weird and so special. And there's this little alien, and there's this supermodel, and they're somewhere in the desert. And then we realized it needed to go into the section of juxtaposition. Again, juxtaposition is such an important part of photography. What do you put into a photograph? Where do you decide what's the border of it? What is within the picture? What is juxtaposed to each other? What is side by side to each other? And it does create a lot of tension. So that is why people want to look at photographs, because things are a bit special or weird in photography. And so we came to this. And maybe, oh yeah, the other one that was very clear from the very beginning, and I thought it just screams for that letter. It's E for exposure. It's Martin Parr's image. Martin Parr has so much fun with photography. He's probably one of the coolest guys, and he's really taken so many pictures of really weird situations. And seeing this guy being so high up on all these sun chairs and exposing him so much to the sun, I thought, he's probably going to be overexposed very soon. There's going to be far too much light being on him, sunlight. He might actually turn pink in a moment. English people turn pink very quickly. And that Martin Parr knows really well. This is probably not in England at all, but it looks like he's going to burn himself very soon because a little too close to the sun. So what could be a better picture to explain exposure than this one? So you see, there's so many fun pictures here. I mean, I could tell you probably hours and hours about all the pictures that I've found on the way, all the conversations that I had with the photographers. But most of all, I just really want you to be inspired by this book. See what you take out of it. The text that Monty wrote is really fun. It's quite witty, and he's really playing again with photography and words. So if you go through the book, if you find favorite images, if they inspire you to do something, if you want to maybe explore something else, great. You can definitely learn a lot about it. And I think for me, the most important part is that I've managed to get sort of all the things that I've learned, all the things that I learned from other photographers, all the things from my university degree, all the theory, all these really important ideas, these thinkings about photography into this one book and made it accessible, understood by kids, by parents. You can discuss it with your parents, you can pick up a camera. I mean, you all guys have cameras. Just go out and have fun with it. Yes, that's all I wanted to tell you. I hope you're enjoying the show. I hope you find some favorite images, and I hope you're going to take some pictures. Send some to me if you've taken some fun ones. Let me know, I'm curious. I'm wishing you all the best, and hopefully we see each other at some point. Big hugs. Bye.